Welcome to ToV Live. It is Valhalla time, and apparently we're craving coffee or coffin, or we're just coughing. Who knows what's up tonight? Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome to the ToV Podcast. Live streaming tonight. I am Ryan, aka Tales of Valhalla, but you can call me Tales. And tonight we have a wonderful panel of guests for this very special podcast tonight. We're going to be doing some lore, and it's a very inspirational lore book, the Wellspring War. Got it right there. And so we have our usual panel tonight. We got Joe Crazy, we've got Josiah, aka Roguescaper, we've got Jeremy, the SM Cullet, and then as a special guest for us tonight, we have the author of the book, The Wellspring War, JJ Oden. I just love saying that name. JJ, welcome, and please go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience since this is your first time on.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's JJ. There's not a whole lot to me. I'm a middle school counselor, so I deal with a lot of crazy and can handle a lot of crazy.
Apparently you can write a lot of crazy too, So.
Apparently I can write a lot of crazy too, yeah. I like to write. I like to do all kinds of your stereotypical nerd stuff. Wargaming, all kinds of board games, painting miniatures, all that kind of stuff. Very into that. Been married for 2.5 years now, and trying to figure out how to live life the best I can.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the stream, and we're going to be getting into some of the pages of the Wellspring War, this book that I poured over last week, and this all stems from here. I'm going to just bring it up real quick. And this whole configuration of what made this podcast tonight with JJ happened about a week and a half ago. I saw a Reddit post that JJ posted, read it on a live stream 2 Wednesdays ago, and here link in the description below if you want to read it. Very inspirational stuff. And here, let me just bring it up real quick. Where are you? There you are. All right, and yes, this is after almost 7 years. I was finally able to play again. I read that last that Wednesday, and it was I felt it very important to do so. And then when I realized that JJ wrote a book, I'm like, well, we got to talk about that too. We haven't done a lore podcast like a fan fiction lore podcast in a while, so we're gonna do that tonight. And there is tragedy, there is inspiration to be found in this tonight. There's lots of reasons why JJ did it, so he's going to explain that to us in a little bit. But for right now, we're going to get started first with YouTube shoutouts. I'm just going to get that out of the way so I don't forget it. So let me bring this up again, and then we'll get into some comments from people from the last stream. So here, hold on 1 second. So this wasn't planned because here I go, Joe.
Hey! Sometimes you got to do things unplanned.
Yeah, because I only saw this YouTube channel.
You can't plan every baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now, coming from someone who has surprise twins, yes.
Oh, man. He knows what I'm talking about.
This is
oh no, Joe! No, Joe!
Joe, are you keeping something from us? I know you just got engaged, so
Nope.
Okay,
we're good for now.
Okay.
Dry. I'm all dried up.
Bruh.
All right, go ahead.
That
what do you got?
I could take that.
What'd you find?
So many ways. Okay, so.
Did Joe just make the joke that we made fun of Renegade for it? Now Joe is the one making the joke.
All the jokes are with Joe tonight. But anyway, speaking of happily married couples,
there you go. Sorry.
We have. How's that for a segue? We have this
beautiful. Love it.
Have this YouTube channel called Hexala, like Valhalla, Hexala, and this couple plays Heroscape games together, and it's just a fun little like The Office type format that they have. They are just getting started. They just posted their first video like 3 days ago, and I enjoyed it. I watched through most of the whole thing, and I thought it was very interesting concept of what they did while playing a Heroscape game, is that they comment on the game and like pretending to be like interviewed type things. So really enjoyed that. And so and already I see the subscriptions going up. If any of you out there can't get enough Heroscape, I recommend trying them out, give them the view, give them some support and some sub love if you can. But I just wanted to give them a quick shout out. See, and it says in their information, just a husband and wife and some hex-based terrain. Really,
that's all you really need.
Yeah, took the words right out of my mouth there, Roguescaper. Exactly. So yeah, I wanted to give them a quick shout out, and yeah, go check them out, please. All right, now let me get to some YouTuber comments here. Make sure that's here. I have to go with the checklist. It's very important to do that. Yes. Okay. So comments from some of the audience from the last podcast. Most of it's going to be about Crixus, I think. Let me just see. I gotta press some buttons, and then you guys be able to see it on on a chat window here. Just give me one moment. Okay, I gotta do this. I gotta hit share your screen, and then I gotta go to this window, then that window, and then there.
Go me potato salad. Here it is.
There we are. Okay. Now let me get that. Okay. So first comment comes from Wayne Kautzer913. It says, my most memorable moment using Crixus in a game was when a friend attacked him with Brax's normal attack and rolled 5 skulls. I reveled in that moment, certain that I would get at least that single shield and thus only take 1 wound. But I blanked. So he got insta-killed. Yeah,
Ooh.
This happens often enough, I think, because I had a similar situation when I was skirmishing with Crixus like a month or so back. And I think similar situation happened to me as well. I think Crixus already taken some wounds, but it's like I was like, okay, he's got to at least roll 1 shield, and nope, and gone. Yep. It's one of those disadvantages. I mean, Crixus is a great miniature, great card, but there is that type of thing. Sometimes it's like you think you're going to get something, like them's the breaks, and them's the dice, really. All right. So thank you, Wayne, for that comment. And then next comment comes from TO Titan 8855, and it says, hey, nice, cool to see my comment being seen on here. Like last podcast we talked about one of his comments, which
from like 4 weeks ago practically. So this is a comment mentioning about his other comment.
Exactly.
Conception.
I was about to say that.
That's nuts.
This happens. Cool to see my comment being seen here. Also cool to see different squads and heroes being talked about. I like the idea of gladiators, and I've heard the 3 Capuan gladiators plus Spartacus plus Crixus is a fun build. Although not like meta, but to be honest, it's more fun when it's not meta. Sometimes I think the really absurdly good units, like the 4th Mass Death Reavers, can be not super cool to play against. Then again, I haven't played against them ever. Get yourself some tournaments.
Oh,
you will.
Yeah.
I don't. You know what? It's amazing for how many tournaments I go to. I don't see 4th Mass or 10th Reg as often as I usually. I used to see 10th Reg a lot, but
it's mainly because of the bans. So I know because
it's mostly because of the formats. They encourage the formats encourage not for that type of gameplay, but
which is cool. I like that.
It's good, but I feel bad for those people that are like, man, I love the 10th Reg. Like
no, because like every time they show any game, that's the funny part, right? It's like you get all these game modes that let you play different ways, and it's all like. Then there's that like shift in what you're comfortable with. But then the moment you get into a game with against the 10th Reg, like I think I played, what was that, the one Berserker one where they told you to draft the Tarn Vikings. And so there was a bunch of people who drafted Tarn Vikings and then a bunch of 10th Reg. And I was just like, bruh. And like there was no winning. There was no winning. I just watched myself turn to paste and I was just like, all right, cool. Like it was just so funny.
It's amazing how many really awesome builds are out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you don't try to play something super overpowered.
Right. And watch yourself get devastated.
Once you play Fourth Mass, I mean, they're great. They're really, really good.
I understand deeply the need, but at the same time, I resent it.
It's a love-hate type thing. You know, you love to play them, you hate for someone else to.
I don't love it. Just hate it.
That's fair.
Then TD Titan says, but either way, I find it more fun to find uses for all units, even if they aren't as good as others. At the end of the day, there is also luck involved in this game. Yes.
There is.
Yes. And I think that's one of the important things, like last ScapeCon was when Ken Williams, when he was talking about playing this game, he was kind of mentioning the fact that you gotta play by the odds, and you just gotta make your moves, and you gotta take your advantages playing against those odds, because it's not that you're gonna be guaranteed win every time. It's about getting that 5 out of 6 games, you know, and about taking, you know, every advantage that you can get in order to, you know, win on that tournament level. So, I mean, there's something to be said for that. But and that's the fun of Heroscape. You just never know if you're gonna whiff every roll in a game. It can happen.
Happens to me more often than I would like, though. But
And so thank you, TDO Titan, for those comments. And then one more comment, which might be slightly controversial, but I don't shy away from these type of comments. So
controversial? Heroscape community? No.
Number one, Team Ski, and I think this is the first time number one Team Ski has commented, so thank you so much for the comment. It says, it seems like there are attempts at trying to get more females into the game, considering the lack of male heroes, especially Kiris. And I think we're talking about this first wave from Renegade. Also, the figures in the game have a lot of purple and gold in their palettes for some reason. I think I'm talking about when it comes to like the miniatures being painted. Now, I'm going to stop there first. Now, I'm an analytical type of guy sometimes, and so I actually went through the original Heroscape list, just the heroes, to see what the ratio was between male and female, and also because there actually is a significant amount of hero miniatures that don't have either gender. They're just and so yes, majority of original Heroscape is male. And then about I'd say a third of the amount of males there's your female characters, and then there's a third amount of like to where there's no, you know, specific classification, at least not that I could see. And then from this first wave, there's about nine females, and there's about, I mean, there's not like no males, and I'm counting heroes. I'm not counting squads. Not counting.
You're not counting the individual female characters within the
I'm not
squads.
I'm not counting any squads. I'm just talking about heroes.
Right.
And so and I did the same with what's been released, and there's about if you're counting the females and the males, there's like 5 males. There's like 9 females. It's a little bit much, but a lot of these females, I mean, I like that. I know there was one gender swapped. I think it was the polar bear one.
Yeah.
And there's like 2 or 3 it type characters too. So, I mean, I don't know if one Team Ski is meaning this to like say this is like a red flag or something. I mean, for me, it's more like a pink flag. You know, it's just you know. But
I'm confused. I'm confused. Okay, so I gotta say something because I'm a big brain moment here. We have to remember that these designs came from Avalon Hill,
right?
First of all, and we even had that discussion with Dadscaper, who said a lot of the stuff he recognized that are being used by Renegade right now are the original designs from these, not, you know, they're not edits from Renegade. Renegade's what's it called? Reverting back to previous prototypal states. The comment came up in the past. I remember this came up in the discussion in Avalon Hill Discord, and then Carmine put in his 2 cents, and he explained that the original Norse mythology Valkyries are female, only have been female, right? So when Heroscape came into the picture, it changed the original story. Right, they adapted Norse mythology into the story, and that's why we have a bunch of male Kyrie. And Carmine mentioned that he wanted to try to pull back to the Norse mythology roots, and so that's why they're introducing more female characters and more female Valkyrie and Kyrie options. I don't think there's any like agenda.
Yeah, I don't.
It's just a reference to Norse mythology.
Heroscape is woke. Look, don't you know it?
We're not starting this discussion again. No,
I mean, well, and
just saying, this is my thing. It's just Norse mythology. That's it.
Yeah.
You got to understand. And Carmine
people wanted more history. This is it.
Carmine is a lore guy, and Carmine is a huge lore guy. And his thing was like, hey, why are we using Valkyrie and there's not actual Valkyrie? There's no Valkyrie references. Valkyrie are female. That's the concept that we're borrowing from, right? And using in Heroscape. We have to recognize the OG and the original story and, you know, Scory and all the Prozetta and all that stuff. Like, that's what Carmine was trying to encourage. I don't think they're trying to do some, you know, there's no meta here. It's just a game that loves Norse mythology. Right. You know, so and that's my take on it, and just try not to. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to tell people to watch out for what's the term. Oh, okay. This is not a mean thing. I promise. This is just a lore thing, but I've experienced it before. It's called apophenia, right? And it's a really fancy term for when patterns are made between things that don't connect at all. And it happens a lot when we reserve, like, and it's just an information thing, because when you're in the realm of information, everything's really cool. And I see this all the time, and I mean it in the loving and most loving way possible. It's like sometimes we do connect things that aren't there. It just happens. It's an accident. I deal with it as a lore guy all the time. Like when I'm working with other franchises, people come to me with these questions, and I'm just like, where did you get that ? And it's like, I am such a loving person. I hate being mean, but it's like, when they come to me with this question, I'm just like, I don't know where you got that question from. That never happened. And then I have to realize, oh, they're drawing patterns from things that are not connecting, because it's just, that's what our brain does sometimes. And so it's like, look.
And this isn't the whole set either.
There's
this is just the
it's
first
just, I promise you, I don't think there was any intention when Avalon Hill made these designs. They're going off of Norse mythology. Renegade's using the designs from Avalon Hill. There's just, it's just a really, you know, it's just a love for Norse mythology. I don't think there's any,
and
I think
subversion here.
And maybe just in a wider sense that, you know, this game was originally marketed as a game boys play with their dads or their male relatives, you know, initially, but now it's kind of, I think the landscape has changed where, you know, it's not, no one bats an eye if anyone plays a war game, you know, it's loved and accepted. And I don't think there's like an intentional, you know, like, oh, if we make Xenothrax a female, I don't think there's, I think
most
it's just
the dragons are female.
Most of them are already female, and I think it's just, and I think it's just more a landscape. It's more anyone can play wargaming now, you know.
Exactly. There's a chance for everybody to join in. So that's a good message. That's what I like to. Experience in the war game.
Anyone can roll dice and have a fun time. That's
I like. Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. I like that.
And then the comment on the purple and gold, I think it's honestly not necessarily feminine colors, but I think the theming of Age of Annihilation is that purple, and the most best contrasting color to use is gold. You know, the box art is purple, so you want it to really pop and draw your eye. Those are the colors you're going to go. And purple and gold's kind of a motif that's been used in Heroscape a lot. You look at the pretty much a lot of the Einar, you know, the Imperium, the Samurai, just lots of units, and it's a great color combo. It really catches the eye for these miniatures.
Exactly. Well, and I think I'm in agreement with you guys. I think it's going to take a lot more obvious things for that type of thing. And,
Right,
and
like,
even Justin there in the chat saying, "I hope Heroscape doesn't go woke." I don't think that is the case. I understand that there's a debate within like pop culture when it comes to like film culture and some things out there. There's a debate on both sides, and I study it often because I'm very interested in those types of things, and I don't see that in this. And really, it doesn't matter to me personally whether or not like all the miniatures would be released would be entirely female. Just make a good game, make it play well, give it a good story, and it doesn't matter what type of, if you've got females, males, or it's it doesn't matter. Make a good game, make a good story, respect that source material, and get it out there.
Yeah, just join the hive and don't worry about anything ever again.
Oh my gosh.
Do not be totally mind shackled. That's the point. But and then and one team ski, I don't want to discourage you from commenting, and I don't want to discourage like these type of comments from being seen, because I think it's important for a person to express what they're thinking in a situation. But we're not going to we at the same time won't shy away from thinking about what we think either. And I'm just going to finish one Team Ski's comment too. It says, to be honest, I'm not sure how common squads are going to be affordable if or when they arrive, which could kill the game. Now that I separated that because
that's a silly comment.
I don't understand. I don't understand.
What do you mean? It's affordable. Do you not realize what we pay now for common squads?
Are we talking about point? Are we talking about points, like game points, or cost?
No, I think he's talking about actually paying like
money. Yeah,
like $15 to $20 for a squad. Like I just paid, $60 for 2 squads of green scales. Like that's
when commons come out. Oh my gosh, that is gonna be
like, bro. That's the game. Like, go play Warhammer. You come back to me.
Oh my gosh.
I played Warhammer, and when I was looking at some of the costs for like the old Scape stuff that I was thinking about buying, I was like, this is cheap. Like buying it is cheap.
That's hilarious.
I mean, compared to other games out there, it is dirt cheap.
And this stuff I can buy like pre-painted and assembled for the same price that I'm buying 3 Tyranid warriors.
Plus awesome terrain. Awesome terrain. And sparkly water tiles and Wellspring tiles. So you get 2 kinds of sparkly for the price of like 300.
I think there's a question maybe more hidden within it. That's more, how are they going to release comments? I think is maybe what the roundabout way they're going to say it is, like, because I am interested in, are they going to do, classic booster packs with 2 in a pack, or we haven't really heard much on that front. So that is definitely something I'm kind of looking out for or theorizing a lot on.
I desperately hope they start selling things individually so that if someone wanted to just get 3 squads of the same figure, they could, and they're not forced to get, for example, like Nagrubs and also Mesodemons.
That
like,
to me would be a little bit of a red flag if they do
that. Like that's come on, like
absolutely.
If anything, they do a pack where they sell it as a 3-pack, and you get 3 squads of the same figure. That to me is more encouraging of the idea of like, okay, I'll get 1 pack, I'll get the 3 squads, I can put that in my army, I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, anything else you guys want to say on this before closing out? I think I knew this was going to be a good conversation, and so for that, one Team Ski, we do appreciate the comment and allowing us to express what we think about the situation. And please, even if it's something to where we're in a disagreement, never be afraid to comment. Like I said, I'm open to all comments, and don't let thinking, oh, they're going to disagree with me, to stop you. Make your voice be heard. That's one reason why I showed it tonight. So really do appreciate your comment. Thank you, one Team Ski. And that is the comments for tonight. So here, let me get this. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing with y'all. Okay, let me catch up with comments here in the chat, actually. Justin saying, growing up with Braxis was one of my favorite figures, and I never cared once that she was a girl. Braxis is, like, just fun. The custom...
Slay Queen.
The custom I'm working on for NGC contest is an Ashra hero. Oh, awesome. There's another common squad that's fun as Wars of Ashra. If the figures were designed well, people won't care if the characters are male or female. Exactly. That was my point.
Yeah, that's
Justin.
what I'm saying.
Yep.
I like a pack with 2 of the same common squad for $30 or $40. Yeah, I would like that too. And they would make a killing if they did that. So, let's see here. Oh, okay. And Joe is making some comments there. Okay, so thank you, Justin, for those comments there in the live chat. Now, what we're going to do is get into our main topic tonight, main subject, and I'm looking so forward to this. Going to be talking with JJ about some fan-made Heroscape lore from this book, The Wellspring War. Now, before we get started, though, I want JJ did a little bit of a brief introduction, but I want us to get in the depth of the matter when it comes to the backstory behind this book and this story. So, JJ, explain to us how this got all started.
Yeah, so I was this started, like, the concept of this book started a long time ago. I was a freshman in high school, and a junior that I was friends with was like writing a book, or was like typing on his computer in the hallway one day. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm thinking about trying to write a book for my senior project next year." My high school did this thing where in order to graduate, you had to do a senior project for the second semester of your senior year. And there wasn't a lot of restrictions on what specifically it had to be. It just had to be a project of some kind. And then you kind of detailed your process as you did the project. And so he had talked about wanting to write a book, and I thought, that's actually really cool. I kind of like that idea. So as a freshman, I sat down and went, okay, what do I want to write about? And I was like, Heroscape's my favorite game ever, so I'll just do Heroscape. And so I sat down and detailed out a massive list of ideas to try and start writing. And I actually started writing. Most of the first chapter of the book is actually inspired by or used from what I wrote as a freshman. I just retooled it when I became a senior. So I did a little writing there, and then dropped the idea because high school. And then my senior year is just around the corner, and 2 weeks before I started my senior year in high school, my younger brother passed away in a car accident. And obviously, I was devastated. My whole family was. And as we were kind of going through the healing process, a lot of things had changed in our life. But I distinctly remember about a month into my senior year, I was kind of thinking, like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my senior project. Like, I don't know if writing a book is the right option. I don't know. So, like, I was folding laundry in my family's basement, and I went, you know what? Jake really liked the band Owl City. And so I went and pulled up Owl City because, like, I haven't seen if they've posted anything new or released anything new recently. Started listening to one of their newest albums, and there's a song called You're Not Alone. And as that song started playing, as I was just listening through this album and folding laundry, I remembered something. I had been at state choir previously in that year. I remembered something that the director at that choir had said. He said every person has a song in them, and it's their job to get it out of them. And for some people, that is a song. For some people, that is a game that they make. For some people, it's a book. And so I had all of those thoughts, and I went, what if I write a book as my senior project, even though I decided I didn't want to do that? So I went and pulled out all of my notes from 3 years before and started looking through those notes, and I went, oh, I'm having so many more ideas now. This is going to be, like, actually feasible. And so I started furiously writing while listening to Owl City, furiously writing all of these new ideas that I was having. And it changed from just a story about the lore of Heroscape to my journey through the loss and grief, and then forgiving myself and healing of having lost my brother that day. And one thing I always tell people anytime I'm talking about this book is I know there are a lot of flaws in it. The way that the senior project process worked, I was not allowed to actually start on it until January of my senior year. So from January to May is when I had to actually work on this project. I started a little earlier. Don't tell any of my teachers. I started a little bit earlier with like the pre stuff that you do, the outlining of the book. But didn't actually start the writing part until I was given the green light to actually do this as my senior project. And so for a period of 3 months, I wrote the book in about 3 months. Wrote it, got it edited, and then self-published it. And at the start of that 3-month period, I was playing varsity basketball, and I was a senior in high school, and I would sometimes come home from a late night basketball game, and I would still have to finish writing a chapter that day. So some of the chapters in the book are like a page and a half long because it was already 10:30 and I still needed to write a chapter because I needed to write a chapter a day for 20 or 30 days so that I would have it ready to go for people to proofread. So there are some things that could use some work, and one of my goals now that I'm a full-fledged adult is to eventually go back and revise it and do a lot more justice to the story, particularly some of those shorter chapters that deserve more. Because even as I'm reading through it myself, sometimes I'm like, I could have added this and this and this and this, and I didn't think about it back then because I had just got home from a basketball game.
JJ, we're our own worst critic. Us creators, we are our own worst critics. You know, we really are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that
So,
yeah. Go ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead.
oh no, I do have to ask if you're not comfortable sharing, feel free to not. But what year did you graduate? 'Cause-
I have a feeling I'm a lot younger than most of you. I graduated in 2017. I'm 25.
Okay. So you're about to have a really fun. This is gonna be a really fun experience. I'm gonna make it short, I promise, because I'm not gonna take too much of your time. This is your show for today, but I do have to say something really crazy. Would you believe me if I told you that while I was a senior in high school, I was also writing a novel about Heroscape? Would you
Really?
believe me? Yes.
I mean, I believe you. I have no reason to not.
Guys, lore master. It doesn't surprise me. You know?
Oh, that is it's just so cool to think there was someone else that did that. I mean, yeah, it's in the future, so it would be about so I graduated in 2011. So that means you graduated what, like 7 years out. So
6 years.
Yeah, 6 years.
Yeah, but 6 years. So if there was a gap of 6 years, there were no Heroscape novels being written, but at some point in the universe, a Heroscape novel was being written in those pillars of history, and I just think it's really cool that happened more than once. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Cool stuff. For context, I wrote about the dragon planet, so I was from that perspective. That was what I was doing. The whole thing was about Icaria, so I didn't do. I did quick references, but I was like, no, most of my stuff is dragons. So, but yeah,
you
cool
can't
stuff.
go wrong with
That's
dragons. You can't go wrong with dragons.
I was obsessed with those. So
Well,
I just had to put that out there. There's pillars of the universe.
It's actually very, very interesting, because I think around 2015, 2016, I mean, I got to correct myself if I'm wrong later, but that's the time when I was writing the scripts for seasons 2 and 3. It took me about a year to write the 150 plus pages of seasons 2 and seasons 3. Around that time as well. So I just I just clicked in my head. It's like, oh, awesome. And then Justin's asking a question in the chat, so I'm just going to answer it real quick. Justin, I have 2 links in the description below on YouTube, and one's for Amazon, but there's another website you can get the book from as well if you want to go to that website. But both links should be in the description below. I believe I put both there. So there's more than one way to skin this cat. If you're looking to get the book, Justin. So now, okay, this process. So You decide to do this for your senior project, for your love of Heroscape, and also for the love and memory of your brother. Now, and you talked a little bit about the process. Do you want to expand on that more, or do you want to talk about like the character that you're that basically symbolized who your brother was, because this is an entirely new character that people are not going to be familiar with. So tell me what should we do?
So I can talk about him. I can talk about that character because that's a big part of the book. Is Jake's character. So as I was kind of going through the process of writing the book and deciding who was going to be in it, because obviously there are a wealth of characters that can be in any Heroscape-based book, and I did my best to touch on most of them if I could, because there's just a lot. I was doing some thinking, and I narrowed down the scope of the story to kind of the Swarm of the Morrow from like the canon lore perspective. And as I was kind of looking through a lot of the characters that were involved in that, Sergeant Drake was one of them. And I mentioned this in my Reddit post. Sergeant Drake Alexander was the character I used to win the game that I played against my brother the night before he passed away. And so as soon as I saw him, I was like, I absolutely have to, like, that is my character because I have to. But then I went, okay, well then how is he? How am I going to get my brother written into this? And I went, you know what? Why not just give Sergeant Drake Alexander a brother? And because I like alliteration, and also because conveniently my brother's middle name was also alliterative with Drake, Dakota became a character. And so I modeled Dakota in a lot of ways after the person that he was named after. A lot of his mannerisms, the way that he interacted with his brother, some of the dialogue that he has are some of those dialogue phrases are things that my brother would say, and when I read them myself, I can hear his voice saying them, and it's just he looks similar, at least in my mind, to what Jake looked like in life, and it was just because I wanted for me to make it as real as possible, because I felt like a real story being told through this fictional lens would be more impactful for anybody that read it.
That is beautiful. That is.
And go ahead. If you guys have any comments, please share. No, please share.
Is it JJ? Is that?
Yeah, JJ.
Yeah. So that way I was like, so I don't know if you have had a chance to catch, what was it, a couple episodes ago, we were able to actually confirm, so the Admiral character that's being introduced in the Master Set is actually named after a Heroscaper who passed away.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually, we were able to confirm that with Dadscaper, and if you've had a chance to interact with, was it the VC, Valhalla Customs, there's a new planet that they just added recently, and that planet is also named after a Heroscaper who had passed on recently. And so 2 instances in the Heroscape game right now, both in the custom community and in the retail community right now, where a Heroscaper has been given new life through the game itself. And yeah, I find it to be one of the most powerful human experiences to be able to create memoriam out of our storytelling, and to know that you do that and you have that option to, because like I've been seeing it, they talk about it. Some people, they have the last saved game from their brothers, or people who have passed on. They don't delete those files because they want to, like sometimes there's like ghost files where they'll do a race and they'll see their brother's car or their sister's car still driving in the corner. Like that stuff really messes me up sometimes, because it's just in the beauty of the moment, right? Because you really understand, just the power of memory, and I think that's beautiful. And I just want to tell you, like, I hope you know, like, that's really appreciated if you take the time to do that, because oh man, like, it's just, I just love that we can do that with our ability to still tell stories.
I can appreciate the amount of work and effort that it must have taken to write a chapter a day, no matter how long it was, because even in the short chapters that you wrote, there's still a lot of depth in them. There's still, I mean, the story progresses forward within those chapters, and to do that all in what, 3 weeks, right?
Yeah. Basically, yeah. Three weeks of just writing it, and then once the book's divided into 3 parts. And once I finished a part, I would send it out to my mother and my grandmother, because they were the 2 people who volunteered to edit this monstrosity as it was becoming a thing. And so they went and proofread everything, and so I would send them a whole part of the book and then start writing the second part. And then by the time I was done writing the second part, they'd send me the first part back, so I'd send them the second part. So it was for about 3 weeks. I was pretty much just writing a chapter a day. And then for the next couple of months, it was going through and proofreading it myself, and then adding in all of the edits that they caught mistakes that I didn't catch, or if they had an idea for, hey, this might be a good spot to insert this idea into the story, doing something along those lines. And then the whole process of figuring out how self-publishing works, because that's a beast in and of itself. So that I could get it all self-published and actually have copies of the book to give to my reviewers at my senior project presentation. And then a couple of copies to donate to my high school. It was a process, but it got done.
That's really cool.
Awesome.
That's
awesome.
Man, that's so cool. Sorry, I'm fanboying. Leave me
alone. It's very inspirational. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a part of you
it does.
to do that type of creative endeavor. But you know what? It is worth it. It is absolutely worth it. And the person you become after it as well is very important. Josiah, do you guys have anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, I just think it's really really impactful, art or things created through a time of loss. I think a lot of people here in this panel, we play Heroscape, we create things because we're dealing with things on internal, external type of stuff. So I like seeing other creatives kind of go another path. And I started started my channel, started doing stuff because my daughter was really sick at the time, and I was really kind of scared and really really just nervous, and it's I know it's just a dumb little game, but Heroscape's kind of like my comfort place. It's I have memories with my dad playing, and I've carried this stuff through multiple moves through the years, and and I still have all my pieces because it means something to me. And I think it's a game, and I think it's more than a game because the people you meet and the things you create because of it. I think it's just very impactful. I definitely wanted to. I would have more things to say about your story itself. I didn't have a chance to read it, but I'm sure it's got to be interesting just because it's you what you're going through, and I think that's really really cool. And I love kind of seeing, just beauty and kind of in the sense of loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it is. It talks about that, and it shows JJ's take, his perspective on things, and it's very faith-based, but I don't have a problem with that. I have no problem with that at all. It coincides well with the story that's being presented. Joe, do you have anything before we read a couple of pages of this book?
Not that people have not already had said. Way better than I could have ever imagined saying it. So really, let's dive into this. I'm excited to hear these inserts because I do want to get more or a different perspective or a perspective at all into what Valhalla is like. So
all right, let's do that then.
Let's take a look at this. I'm really excited.
Okay, let me share, and nobody knows what pages I'm actually gonna show because I just
I mean, it's like a trailer, right? Like you're essentially taking, like things out of it, and it's like maybe an action scene, maybe it's a dramatic scene. It's like coming out. It's already out. You can buy it now. Go out.
It's been out for 7 years.
Yeah.
Let's just read the last page and
skip the whole end.
If you just read the last page, you're going to be so confused. I'm not joking you. You will have no idea what the rest of the book is about.
No, I kind of agree with that. All right, here, let me get this up here. All right, so I think we can all see that. Let me try and zoom it up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
All right, and see how I can scroll down. Okay, let me just read through this, and forgive me if I get names and places wrong, but let us just go through this. So this, we're going to read page 25, 26 in this.
JJ, real fast. Are you Team Olar or Team Ular? That's the real question.
I hope I'm not making too many enemies, but I say Olar. That's how my brothers and I always said it. Because we were a bunch of little kids that were seeing all of these interesting names and going, I have no idea how I'm supposed to read this on this card, but it looks like Olar. Like, we used to call Nagaksa Nagaksei because that's what it looked like to us as little kids. And then I heard somebody else, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I heard somebody say Nagaksa, and I was like, that's the way that's pronounced?
Amazing.
Every single Heroscape character has a new way or a different way of pronouncing it. All the time. It's incredible.
Yeah, I love playing the Aru Groots.
y'all gotta watch this. So I'm showing my what is it? My Gen Z vibes now to everyone out there. But anyways, there's a TikTok out there where I don't know if anyone remembers the paleontologist that started that trend about the meteor thing. She's great. I think her content's awesome. She does. Do you remember she made it? She's like she had God and the angel were talking about the dinosaurs, and it was an accidental meteor. I'll send it. You need the context because it's really funny. Anyways, she is a verified paleontologist. Like, that's her job. She digs up dinosaurs and stuff like that. And dinosaur names are some of the worst things to try to pronounce. And she has a thing where she's trying to encourage people to allow any of the names. Like, how are you going to pronounce a name like that? Like, good luck. Like, for some people. And so she's like, she has a song. She says both are correct, and she just kept singing that to every dinosaur pronunciation. It was really funny. So, when in all doubt, when it really comes to it, both are correct. It's just you gotta just enjoy. Yeah, just enjoy it. It is funny though. I do like trying to compare, but trust me, at this point, like after the Jandar thing, I gave up. Like, I'm just. I tried. I did so much research and it was all wrong. And I'm gonna cry in the corner.
Jandar has no idea. Ukar.
I can
potato, potato.
I can kind of relate because my 5-year-old's into dinosaurs. So yeah.
Yes.
Names
are wild.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get started reading this. Okay. So this is getting in a conversation, but we'll understand what's going on really quick. It says, when you drink from the well springs, Jandar explained to Uller, as the two walked closer to the wellspring, you received strength physically, but also received disturbing visions. The Kiri's boots began crunching as they transitioned from earthly grassland to sandy shoreline. As I have discovered, Jandar continued, these visions are not always the same. Sometimes they depict battles, but other times they don't. It is through the drinking of the wellspring water many times that I think I have finally found a way to summon the creatures from my visions of battles. The two reached the wellspring and halted. The wellspring had a much larger pool of water at the bottom than the one in the memorial forest. This pool of water was deeper as well. Jandar stayed silent for a moment while Uller looked in the wellspring. It is astounding, Uller remarked, that not once did we find a wellspring in the eons our people have lived here. It makes me wonder if they have only recently appeared. Jandar was perplexed for a moment. He hadn't ever given thought to why it was that they had never found a wellspring before. Maybe the wellsprings had only recently materialized, as Uller had suggested. But what was the purpose of the sudden arrival? Why were the wellsprings here? Putting the thought aside, Jandar continued to explain the process of summoning. As I said, the Archkiri continued, I believe I have found how to summon the beings from other worlds. If you would like to watch my first attempt at summoning, you may. However, I don't want you to feel obligated to do so. I will stay and see if I can learn from what you do, remarked the older Kiri, after pondering for a moment. Very well, replied Jandar. Wait here while I try the summoning process. Jandar stepped up to the wellspring and into the clear water. Was he really about to try bringing beings from another planet to Valhalla? Would this be considered blasphemous by the Almighty? Jandar hoped not. Jandar stepped into the pool of water. While this wellspring's pool wasn't as shallow as the one in the Memorial Forest, Jandar was still only waist deep in it. He went over the process in his head of how to summon from the last stream he had after drinking from the wellspring. Submerge, envision who he wanted to summon, stand, raise arms, shout something. The last part was what worried him the most. He didn't know what he was supposed there, hold on a second. Zoom in. Supposed to shout. He had watched himself summon in the vision, but couldn't hear what he had yelled when he summoned. Almighty help me, he prayed. Then he began the process. He submerged. He envisioned the wingless Kiri in green clothing. The water felt refreshing on his skin, like cool water after a long day in the sun. He stood, raising his arms to the sky. Aid me in my time of need, he shouted, guessing at what he had shouted in the vision. He waited, but nothing happened. Had he been wrong? Did he do something from the process wrong? He felt ashamed. Not only was he now thoroughly soaked, but he had also been wrong in front of Uller, another Archkiri, and one that he was trying to impress. Feeling discouraged, he was just about to lower his arms when he heard a crackle above him. He looked up at his hands to see them sparkling. Stunned, he stayed motionless. Uller stared at him in awe. Jandar's sentinels and Uller's protectors all turned and watched in wonder-struck silence. After a few more cracking noises, bolts of lightning shot from his hand and into the heavens. Suddenly, a window into another world opened. Through that window, Jandar could see the wingless Kiri he had envisioned. All of the wingless Kiri turned toward the portal. Come, Jandar said quietly. The image distorted as it began to twist like a whirlwind, leaving the space between his arms and landing on the ground like a twister, kicking up sand before dissipating. After the portal tornado vanished, Jandar made eye contact with one of the wingless Kiri standing before him. And that's the end of that chapter. So this gives us just a little bit of two characters, Jandar and Uller here, and their process of discovering the wellspring and seeing what to do about the wellspring. It's an interesting take on how to summon, what their internal thoughts are in this. And there's obviously some stuff at the beginning that I'm not going to mention. Like, I'm not going to read everything about this book. I'm not going to say everything about this book because I want you all to buy it. I want you guys to enjoy this experience yourself. But yeah, it's interesting how how this starts and how the summoning, from JJ's point of view, how the summoning starts and how people start coming together. JJ, do you have any thoughts on this while I was reading it, so I can give my lungs a break a second? Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, we talked earlier about being your own worst critic, and I definitely saw several things in there that I was like, should have done that better. Should have used that later on in the book. Just because, as I'm looking at it, I'm looking at ways that I can revise it because I want to eventually. But this was a scene that, as I was writing it, this was a slower write because I had a little more time on that day, so I was able to take the time and write slow as much as I needed to. But also, I wasn't totally sure how Jandar was going to be summoning people into another world until it was on the paper. It was one of those things that kind of like evolved as I was writing, and I went, I think Portal Tornado sounds cool enough because I was an 18-year-old kid and thought that sounded cool. So that's.
I mean, I don't know if you did you ever watch the webisodes when they did summon? Because
it's kind of
if you look really. Yeah, like if you actually like, I'm so serious. If you watch the webisodes, they have a little summon animations, and it's like a whoosh, and there's like a spiral that goes around the person that takes them to Valhalla. So if you're telling me you've never watched the video, but you managed to see that in your head regardless,
he's the chosen one.
He's the chosen.
Sparkly.
He knows Valhalla for real. He's seen it.
He's seen it.
Tornado. Yeah.
I mean, the last name is Odin. I mean, it's
Norse mythology.
Yeah.
Oh man, we figured it out. Live on Tales of Valhalla. We are speaking with Odin, one of the reincarnations of Odin.
We've broken all walls.
The All-Father is with us.
I've got both eyes though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's your new reincarnation.
Yeah.
You decided 2 eyes this time.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's awesome though. Yeah. And what I'll do is I'll post it in the Discord if you remember. That way, if you want to watch them, because it's just a nice little history part of Heroscape. But there are Portal Tornado is a thing, so you got it on the nail there.
All right, now if
I find it most interesting if I was not. It's not like a negative or bad, but I find it interesting that Jandar, I always envisioned him as a very kind of self-righteous kind of individual, very sure of himself. But the way you write him, he's very kind of, he seems like different than you expect. He seems very self-conscious of who he is and what he's doing and his place in the world, which I think is a really interesting take on Jandar.
And that's part of so each of the Archcurie, I put together kind of like a synopsis in my notes of character traits that they were going to have, and I did my best to embody those. And with this chapter being told from the perspective of Jandar, the idea was you're going to see his internal monologue. So while he kind of puts on this confident front to all of the rest of the Archcurie, internally he's like, okay, I need to make sure I'm doing this right because everybody feels like I'm a confident person, so I have to try and be confident here.
Nice.
You're like, you're embarrassing me in front of the wizard.
Yeah.
there you go.
That's so funny.
Dear.
But it feels like this is like obviously before the war, so it's kind of cool to kind of see this like origin story of who Jandar really is. Like for example, when you do eventually, it's amazing. Still, never seen the webisodes. So when you get to see like
Joe didn't see the webisodes.
No, I'm saying JJ. Like, because
Joe.
we've seen it, and it's like you see this character, and he's very like confident, and like, oh, Sergeant Drake, you're here, we need you, like, and he's like, like this godly being, and obviously this is a point of view, a point in his story where he isn't that person, but he's still got to show it. Right, like JJ said. So I think that's cool. I love that.
No, that is really cool,
because you could have started this book during the war. Like you could. I mean, if that's the case, So
now, here's a fun little thing to chew on, and obviously with all the canons and everything and the stories that we have, they are within the framework of the narrative, and I always think it's cool to kind of see those adaptions. But in the original story, they mentioned that when you drink Wellspring water, you become effectively immortal. Right. So we lose track of their age at a certain point. They just they just are. And even Thorman was like, hey, so 65 years later, we're still fighting. And so it's like that's a long time if you really think about it. For one war, mind you, 65 years is wild, and they're still going at it. And then because Swarm of the Morrows started 5 years after the 65 years, so now we're into 70 years of war, and they're still going at it. Yeah. So this story presenting Jandar as like a not confident. It's like you can put that at any point during the 65 years because we have zero track of time. After they drink the wellspring, they're just there. So it's like it's wild. I like the idea because you can make that a thing where it's like, well, was he always confident? No. Well, this is what we can do now. And then it's just a cool perspective to get from. And Heroscape's always been one of those things where I'm like, man, there's so many perspectives. Let's figure out what we can do with it. And then boom, there's a story. So it's really cool. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, Jeremy, that that honestly just the world of Heroscape is so diverse. It's really rife for multimedia storytelling, the comics and animations and live action, and it's just I think even books, like I think I would totally read a Heroscape series, of Adventures of Sonlin and the Adventures of Grimnack, because there's so many worlds and each world has its own feeling and style and they all kind of coalesce into this weird melting pot.
Real quick, I don't know if I ever brought it up on podcasts. Did I ever talk about when I tried to ask Wizards of the Coast for publishing rights? Did I ever bring that up?
I remember. I don't know if you brought
familiar,
it up,
but I don't exactly remember. I'm sure they said no, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, really quick. I want to insert it in there. I did ask Wizards of the Coast if I could publish a Heroscape novel, and they did tell me no. I still have that letter. It's so funny to read to me. Like it's it's got a little letterhead with the dragon on it. It's so cool, and they're like, nah, and I'm like, all right.
You'll find that there's lots of aspects within this novel that makes it Heroscape-like, but it's not a copy of like original canon Heroscape lore.
That's cool.
Differences. Yeah,
that's still really cool. Yeah, because you say so. This just to kind of I'm keeping track. This book was written in your senior year, or okay. Yep. So we're kind of like it's like a past tense work that we're seeing.
Yes,
that's still cool. That's still really cool because it's like I like seeing the stuff that was rolling around. I love
a teenager taking initiative.
No, it's super cool. Yeah, it's genuine and like for a project and stuff. Yeah,
it's a very mature writing style for a senior.
Yeah, that's
too. I was kind of impressed by the narrative flow. I was just like, oh yeah, I could see it being written by an adult or someone who's kind of more seasoned in the literary world. So is this like your first kind of dive into writing, or did you kind of have some?
Yeah, it really was. I strangely never even took like a creative writing class in high school.
Really?
Yeah, no. Just I don't know why I never thought to take it. I think maybe I was like very laser focused on making sure I was getting like everything I could for scholarships. And so I was taking all of the really hard science and math classes that weren't a lot of fun instead of the fun creative writing classes. So yeah, this was like my first full work of fiction. I'd written some shorter papers for like English classes that were kind of creative writing like, and I loved doing it, which is why I felt like doing this. But yeah.
Are you a big reader as just normally?
Oh, absolutely.
I could definitely tell it because there's just a sense of knowing how a narrative progresses, because this is just a simple scene of a guy jumping into water. It shouldn't be like page turner, but it's like, oh, this is very interesting. This is very. You combine the flow of the narrative with the flow of the inner monologue. So, that's props for me. So,
thank you.
Absolutely. And Sierra, I just want to say a comment. Z Nash in the comments, they're saying, "Hey, I just want to let you know I read the Reddit post and then promptly ordered the book to show my support." Thank you so much, Z Nash. And yes, definitely.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, get that book if you are able to. How about we hop into, because this is actually the excerpt that I was thinking about. I was only going to plan to do 2. I decided to add this third one. So there's actually 2 more excerpts that I really want to read. The next one is like, forgive my French, is really badass. It's uller, just like it's so good, and it gives a concept about the the Valkyrie generals that we didn't really think about the type of weapons that they might have, and it's an awesome concept. So here, let me get to this. Let's see here. No, it's not this one. We're gonna go back to that, but we'll get to this one first. Okay. So here we go. We're back to Uller, and this is an awesome scene. This is when things get heavy. All right. It says suddenly, the doors to Uller's study burst open, interrupting his thoughts. There, in the doorway, stood Atlaga, bracing herself on the doorframe. Her face was dirty and grimy, with streams of sweat running down her face. Blood trickled from a cut on her temple. Her armor was stained with the dried blood of the foes she had felled. "Sir," she gasped, short of breath, "we have failed. Linsafrem has fallen. I ordered the remaining protectors that were with me to find Aquila and her personal guard. Once we found her, we tried to escape, but we weren't quick enough." The wound up fighting against a detachment of minions and Imperium. Aquila took a sword to the thigh. I ordered the last of the Flame Guard and protectors to retreat here. Aquila is on the way to the infirmary. She's lost a lot of blood. Make sure that she is seen to, Uller said, as he rose to his feet. Are you fit to keep fighting? Always, sir, replied Atlaga, saluting. Excellent. I knew you would be, the Archkiri said. Go, prepare the rest of the protectors. I want every soldier ready for a fight in case Taylord sends troops here. Then, I want you to take a group of protectors, the Flame Guard, and Aquila to Kalios. Jander will help us. Tell him everything that has happened. Make sure he is prepared for us to retreat to Lar, should things go wrong. Yes, sir, Atlaga responded. She turned and bolted down the corridor to carry out her Archkiri's orders. A few moments later, Uller flung open the doors to his study and began striding down the hallway to the balcony, wearing his Archkiri armor. He wore no sword. However, Archkiri were special in that way. When they took the throne of their particular region, they bonded with a set of swords and armor that they could summon and dismiss at will. Each Archkiri's set looked different, reflecting their region's particular element. Nastraland's element was ice, so Uller's armor looked like plates of ice, and his swords looked like ice shards. Uller was almost to the balcony when a protector sprinted up to him. Sir, there are minions and Imperium on the way to Icania, explained the Kiri. Find Atlaga in the infirmary and tell her to get Aquila out of here now. You go with her, Uller said. The young soldier nodded and flew off to find Atlaga. Uller turned and sprinted to the balcony. Reaching it, he spread his wings and leapt off, soaring down to the barracks. He pulled up a few yards from the ground. My protectors, shouted the Archkiri. Take to the skies. There are legions of minions and Imperium invading our lands. Defend Nastraland with everything you have, and don't hold back. Uller summoned one of his icy swords, which dropped into his hand. He raised the sword, which elicited a cheer from the thousands of soldiers below him. He turned and flew to the west, toward the enemy. We got a little space of time here. Uller removed his sword from a fallen orc with a grunt. It had been 2 hours since his inspirational speech to his men, and the battle was now raging just outside Icania. At first, all had gone well. His protectors, who were well rested and prepared for battle, fought well against the minions and Imperium who had been fighting for nearly a day. Uller's protectors had taken a small number of casualties in comparison with those of the opposing Kiri. But then the orcs and humans arrived, and everything changed. With the orcs and humans on the ground, Uller was forced to split his soldiers between the enemies in the sky and those charging for the city without any resistance. That put his troops at a severe numbers disadvantage, which meant they took more casualties. Knowing that his soldiers wouldn't be able to hold on for long, he sent a platoon back to the capital to have the citizens evacuated into the Thaling tundra. It was a harsh landscape, but one that the people had lived on for centuries, so they could survive it. They knew the terrain well and could use that to their advantage when it came to outrunning and hiding from the enemies that Uller had to face. Since then, the battle had continued, and it was going poorly. It seemed that for every orc or human Uller killed, two more took its place. His soldiers were getting tired, and more were dying by the minute. He still had most of his personal guard. They were the best fighters in Nasterland, and wouldn't go down without a fight. But the main force was dwindling. He was down to only a few platoons left, judging by the banners of his soldiers still flying. Less than 300 Kiri, standing against the largest fighting force Valhalla had ever seen. Staying was suicide, but Uller needed to buy time for the citizens of Icania. He didn't know if they had been evacuated yet, but he didn't want to risk the lives of any women or children if he could help it, so they would fight on. Uller signaled for his soldiers to fall back to the entrance of the city. They knew what to do. Form a blockade. There, they would try to hold their ground for as long as possible. When I first read this bit, I'm just like, yeah.
No, that's awesome.
This is amazing. Really cool. Uller acting like a badass. It's just like a bit older, and you can tell that he seems like a character who personally would rather just stay in his study and just read like script and history and stuff and be with his books. But he knew as a leader, the leader of his country, he had a responsibility to defend. So it's an amazing bit of couple pages there. It's a first bit of fighting that we actually see in this book, and it is just astounding. So yeah, okay. Again, taking a break with my my voice. Talk amongst yourselves, please.
So
I just
go ahead.
I like it. I like it a lot. It's really cool. The war. I mean, obviously, because we're playing a war game, right? And most of the action takes place in the battlefield. So that was one of my things when I remember when I would write stuff like that. It was just like, okay, how do you write war and make it sound cool? And then it's just, bouncing between back. Oh, he died. Oh, they died. Oh, just like, and then you're just kind of like, there's just this domino effect you like to play on. And I don't know if that's an actual thing in writing, but yeah, the domino effect of war. It's like just watching the pings back and forth between the forces and stuff like that. It's really cool narrative. And I think you did a good job of that, like kind of just showing where everything was at. Obviously, the good guys are being pressed at this point. We understand the sense of fear, the sense of defeat that's around the corner. But then Ullar's like, all right, no, you know what? Like, I am the leader. I need to take my place now. Boom, leadership time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna put down a T-shirt. Yeah. Leadership time.
Leadership
time.
Yeah, leadership time.
Yeah, it just takes to the skies. And I mean, you can sense that sort of like, not giving up sense, and perseverance is always something really cool to see in a story. So, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. So what I was saying is this section is an interesting one because, like I said earlier, I kind of came up with ideas for how I was going to write all of the Arch Curie, and like their personality types. And I had written Oler as the oldest of them, and the more contemplative one of all of them, which is why in the first scene that you read, he was very much like, interesting, like just analyzing stuff. And you're very much right. He is the kind of character that would rather stay in his study with the books if he could. But I, with this scene, wanted to kind of exhibit the idea of you should be scared of a man who is old in a profession where men die young. Because this guy is that guy.
It reminds me of Theoden in Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
He's joining the White Lotus for sure.
Oh, White Lotus reference. We love that. Let's go.
But yeah, the idea here was not only is he a leader who knows the wise thing to do for his people because he's a wise leader, but he also is not scared to throw down if it's time to throw down.
Yeah, and another thing that stood out to me the most too is the Arch-Kiri, that the Valkyrie generals' weapons and armor, how they can be summoned at will. That's a really cool concept. What do you guys think about that? Would that be cool to integrate into Heroscape gameplay if you could make your own Valkyrie general miniatures to have weapons like that?
Well, it feels like at that point you'd have to roll a d20 to allow them to have a special power. To use that, like it's if you want to have it that way. Otherwise, it's like there are characters with like Deadeye Dan has the Ular enhanced rifle or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't summon that, but he is also a human. He doesn't have to summon it. He just owns that weapon. But if you had to summon in, like you could have something on the card that allow you to summon in certain weapons. You could have like a certain amount of pips, just so you have a limit on how many of these special powers are you using. I don't know. We'd have to experiment with that. But
Heroscape always lends itself to be a game that can introduce a great many rule sets and a great many ideas in terms of custom design. So it would just, you could do something like that. It easily could be a thing. It would just be a matter of testing it out and then just making sure, because I've seen stuff that, like, heck, everything we're about to get this year was play tested stuff. So it's like, there's stuff that they try out and they have cool ideas. So they're like, all right, let's put this into play. Oh, that didn't work so well, so let's try this. So if you have an idea like that, go for it. Because I think it'd be really cool to see in the game. And now that we're trying to bring Heroscape back to vogue, so we have to talk about it all the time. Therefore, if you you got any cool ideas, start putting it out there, share it with everybody. I mean, we got the podcast here for that very reason, to help spread your work out there. So it's like, now's the time. If you haven't done it, now's the time. The horns are called. The horn has been played.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. In here, hold on a second. I just want to catch up with the chat a second and see here. Jake Peeplo, I think, says great stories, great book, and a pretty great dude. Yeah, I think so too. Team Ski is saying the player is the Valkyrie. You are summoning your army. Yes, in the game. I get it, but don't destroy my dream, Team Ski. I'd like to see a Valkyrie general miniature. There's a ton of things like cool, but yeah, no, point taken. And Z Nash says love that concept. Yeah, it's cool to think about.
I had a question. Why did you choose ice for Olar? Because you would typically go, Jandar has ice. Was there a reason, or is it just kind of it's cool? Or
part of it has to do with so there was a little bit of intentionally modifying the way in which the canon lore operates to help with the legality side of things. But then there also was part of it was also there are some things that I just didn't know were part of canon lore. And so I didn't know. I saw maybe a month ago, the first time ever that I've seen an official map of what the realm of Valhalla looks like.
Oh, yeah.
Until about a month ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know what it's supposed to look like. So I drew my own map based off of a lot of little lore snippets here and there. And moving some things around to where I felt like they would fit for the story perspective, and then I added in a whole bunch more battlefields that like my brothers and I would regularly play on, that we had like made some custom fields of our own, and then I added those in as locations on the map too.
See, there's the map that he has in the book.
No, that's awesome. I like the thing is, once again, Heroscape's lore is always. I mean, we've had this conversation a couple times on the podcast, but at the same time, I like reiterating that Heroscape's lore is very, very fluid. It is so I've brought it up a couple times. There were 3 separate different writers in the 6 year. Wait, let me math sucks. I hate math. 6 years, yeah. So Heroscape was around for 6 years, right? Retail wise, and in that 6 years, there were 3 main writers, and they all wrote entirely different concepts. And I've read it and I've looked it over, and I'm just like, this stuff is cool and I love it. But you can tell there were different ideas in every iteration of Heroscape in the 3 different groups or the 3 different main writers they had at the time had different ideas they wanted to put into the world. And then now there's like, I mean, if you want to be purist, you can just be like, yeah, there's 3 different types of Heroscape out there story wise. But like it's just the whole thing is just a really fun thought experiment of what would happen if everything in the world decided to fight each other. That's what it's for, Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like, just enjoy the experiment. Like, it's fun to what if, metagame, throw in some cool stuff that you think would possibly happen. Why? Because it's like anything goes, especially in a world like this. Mm-hmm. So, whenever I hear people kind of filling in the holes, filling in the blanks, I love it. I want to hear, I want to see your version, because I think that's super cool. I did, I was like, oh, I don't know why so-and-so did this. What if it was because of this? And then boom, like, I'm just making this stuff up. And there's literally no verification. This does not exist in the game, but I think it should, because it's cool, and that's where it comes from. Mm-hmm. And I always think the idea that Heroscape has always allowed itself to have both a very distinct and neat storyline and also the freedom of everything is wild to me. Like, you can just do whatever you want and it still works. So yeah, that's my thing. It's like, even if you added lore, like, that's still cool, because it's like, that's what Heroscape allows you to do, is to what if stuff into the game, and then boom, now you got customs. So
absolutely. All right, should I continue with the next, or the next little insert I have? We're kind of, actually, this is going to be like, I know I said 2 hours. We might go a little over tonight, because this is fun, engaging.
It's a stuff, it's a good story.
We are nerding out tonight. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
And I mean, I do have like my pros and cons too that I want to give after reading this as well. But let's read this last page. It's just a page. And I think this really, this page kind of gives like a little bit of the fun and the heart of the book, just from this page excerpt. And it talks a little bit about Drake and Dakota. So let me read through it. I know it's kind of hard to see because it was a kind of terrible photograph, but let's just start. Okay, so it says, Drake chased after Dakota as the 2 ran laps around the deck. They're on a boat, by the way. Eventually, Drake caught his brother, tackling him. The brothers rolled on the deck, wrestling for a moment before rolling off the ship. The boys hit the water with the splash, breaking apart to tread water and stay afloat. The sea was cold, and the breeze across the water made it colder. The ship continued on, but Raylan left her place at the stern and flew over the sea, grabbing Dakota and taking him back to the ship. Drake treading water for a moment longer while she returned for him. You two should be more careful, she said skeptically as she flew him back to the ship. If I hadn't been on deck, you would have been left behind. Okay. We'll be more careful next time, Drake said, rolling his eyes. She acted like their mother. The pair reached the ship a moment later, where Dakota was drying off with a towel. Raylan set Drake down on the deck. He grabbed the towel from his brother, who was dry now. That was fun, Dakota said with a mischievous smile. Even I ended up getting wet. Serves you right for waking me up, Drake retorted playfully. It reminds me of that time the guys and I threw you in the river on that camping trip, Dakota replied as the pair removed their clothing and hung it up to dry. He sat next to Drake on a crate, where the two reminisced about their childhood. For the next 2 hours, the brothers laughed as they recounted their quote-unquote glory days as teenagers in the American Midwest. They told of their countless camping trips in the family's many pastures where they sat around the campfire and sang. They rolled across the deck in full-fledged laughter as they remembered all the times that they had climbed trees just to scare their mom. All right, Dakota finally said through tears of joy. I'm exhausted. Let's go to bed. Raylan says that we should be arriving to the shore in the morning. Dakota picked up his dry clothing and started the walk below the deck, but stopped. He turned to Drake before pushing the door open. You won't wake me up the same way I woke you, will you? No promises, Drake said as he put his arm around his brother and led them into the cabins below. So that's just the little bit of sense of fun, and you got Raylan being Raylan there, you know. It's actually the Raylan in this book kind of reminds me of my version of Raylan in the Aftermath Chronicles. It really does. It really does. So I mean, she's very motherly. She's tough, but she has a lot of heart. You know, she has a lot of heart. So what do we want to say about this? Obviously, I mean, this is just a little excerpt. I mean, there's a lot more of chapters or pages of Drake and Dakota interacting with each other and being talked about. But in this, you can see JJ's heart, you know, coming on this page in memoriam for his lost loved one. So that's one thing I take from it. There's some like character development, you know, within this to show what these characters are like, what they're thinking, what they're feeling at this time, even though where they're traveling toward is, you know, destruction and death, but they're spending time playing around. It's, you know, it's having fun when you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's my take on it. Anyway, okay, throat break. Go ahead and talk to us. JJ, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead.
It's interesting that you felt like that is exactly the type of character that Raylan should have, because I actually modeled Raylan after my mother. So a lot of the characters that are involved in this book that are kind of part of the strike team from the Swarm of the Morrow part of things, I'd modified the team a little bit to kind of fit the needs of my book, but each of the members of that team I modeled after one of my family members. And so Raylan was modeled after my mother, and so that's that. When you read the line about she sounded like their mother, that was 100% a thing, just nodding at my mom going, this is exactly how you would respond if Jake and I had run around the deck of a ship, tackled each other, rolled off, and we're in the water. This is exactly what you would have said. And then Drake's response probably would have been similar to mine.
That's really awesome. Cool. I like that immersion experience. Like as you're taking the time immersion. To kind of see yourself. Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier to write.
I mean, yeah, like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying this is a really, really personal and subtle passage. I think this is just kind of reading this through. You know, this is a very, in terms of narratively, it's very actually kind of weird seeing Drake have kind of a sense of playfulness about him. You know, like normally he's kind of this tough guy kind of presented, but I like the changes. You know, I'm not saying I don't like. I like how adding Drake, a brother that he's fighting with, changes his dynamic, you know. And I think just in the narratively, the whole war is kind of the trouble, but I like how you find these little pockets of doubt and joy and peace kind of in this, just to kind of kind of reflect. I think it's very reminiscent and very pondering and very just kind of wistful in a way. And knowing the backstory definitely affects it, but it definitely bleeds through on the page. You can just see that in the words and the narrative.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you guys.
Yep. And okay, I know. Let's see here. We are hour 30 minutes into the podcast. I do want to give my thoughts since I've read through the whole book. So I'm gonna be interrogating JJ here for a few minutes. a little bit. I just want to give my thoughts as a creative on this since I read through it. As long as my voice lasts. Okay. So first I want to do with critiques so we can rip the Band-Aid off, get it over with, and then we'll get to the positives. All right. So critiques. Okay. There is a redundancy in words sometimes. Like sometimes there could be a word said. So all these are usually fairly minor. It's just it takes to just redo the book a little bit again, do some rewrites, and then you're on the mark. It's nothing that really takes away from the story too much. So it's just something I was saying, or that I was thinking when reading through it. The present day scenes, and it's nothing we read in the book, but this story plays out almost like, say, The Princess Bride, where you have the grandpa reading to the grandchild this story, and it goes back and forth between that time to that time. I think it's very important to have that present day type of, okay, here we're at here, and okay, we're going to go back to the story. I think it's important to have that. I just think those scenes can be fleshed out a little bit more. They can be
absolutely
better. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes.
And then my one biggest critique out of the book is Ukkar. Even though we don't read about Ukkar's in here. There's a lot of Ukkar in this book, and most of it is really, really good. But my one major critique in this book is Ukkar's motivations to do what he does. For me, it's horribly weak. It's horribly weak. It's like in thinking, I need new real estate, and that's it.
Yeah.
Just like, we need to flesh that out a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, astounding character. Astounding character. But that's what I was thinking. So okay, Band-Aid ripped off. You don't have to respond if you want to, JJ. It's fine. I'm sure it's stuff you already know.
Yeah, every single thing that you said there is something that I have said to myself and others tenfold over the last 7 years. Because every time I pull this book out, because I have a copy of it that I keep with me at all times. And so, not really at all times, but I've always got it around. And that is, every time I'm looking through it, I'm seeing those same critiques that you had. I'm seeing again. Earlier today, I was glancing through it again, and I was reading the bit about why Utkar was going to war, and I went, man, that is so bad. That it's not terrible as he's just not a three-dimensional character the way I wanted him to be when I was writing him. I think a large part of that was I was a high school senior who had to write the whole thing in 3 months, and so I went,
exactly.
why do kings go to war? Because I want more real estate. Okay.
I think actually
not wrong for thinking that. That's what it is.
If you would have added maybe kind of like an aspect of him being like jealous of the other, like having some
Absolutely.
type of sense of like I'm superior to these guys. Why can't I have this? These guys are just lazy and they've never treated me right. Or maybe there's like a little bit of backstory to where maybe he's talked to them before and there's just bad blood between them in some way.
Right.
Just, there are ways to do it that can be easily put in. But I'm sure you're thinking of that.
The idea of I need more real estate was just the way that I was trying to figure out how to write the whole, these people have secluded me to a volcanic wasteland and I don't like it, and I don't like them because they've secluded me here and they have guards posted so I can't leave and I'm mad at them. but I couldn't find a way to convey that in words that made a lot of sense as the high school senior who was busy all the time. And so it turned into, I want more land.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not terrible. It's not terrible, right. But it needs more things around it. It needs more things around it.
Oh yeah.
So again,
I'll tell you this. If you ever do a second edition, you ever plan to do a second edition or anything like that, and you want a consultation, I got you. I literally, so for just a reference, I am the admin of the Heroscape Wikipedia. I literally have all the documents on hand. You need anything, you got me. You can bug me at any time. I literally don't. Yeah, I genuinely love Heroscape conversations. So if you DM me at a point like, hey, so did so and so do this? I will look it up for you. I got you. So
that's awesome.
There's a reason
I have all the
we
info
call
on
him
hand.
Lore Master, and Jeremy helped flesh out the script of Tales of Awhile as well. We spent a lot of time going through that together. So
yeah, and originality is very much approved. So like, don't ever worry about. I'm not gonna be like, oh, that wasn't in the OG. Trust me, that is not. Right. Once again, Heroscape is an everything game, so I love different interpretations. So trust me, I will not like, oh, that didn't happen. So
all right,
I do think it's interesting how Heroscape is just kind of a game where there's snippets, but most of it is kind of held together by your imagination. You know, the duct tape is imagination. You're like, yeah, that makes sense. That's why what happened. You know, so I think you really captured that point of the imagination really well in your book.
Yeah. Well, and I guess nothing. This isn't a critique, but it is different to regular Heroscape lore. Like locations, the backgrounds of characters, they are different. When you read it, you'll notice it's like, oh, this is different than what I know if you know anything about Heroscape lore. And I know it quite extensively because Lore Master. But it doesn't take away
my fault.
The core story is what's important. And there is a good core story in here that leads the narrative forward. And so any of these critiques, it doesn't take away from that core story. And so that's something you can appreciate. And I'm just like, part of me just like, oh, page. Okay, I don't want to see what happens next. That's what I thought. So okay, so positives. Let me these. I have a list, and I try to keep it to a minimum. But okay, my loves about this book, the battle scenes are bad ass, especially the battle scenes with the Morrow. Oh my gosh, they are so good. Although the one with the orcs is really good too. The one with the orcs is really good too. But yeah, it really good. Again, the weapons of the Valkyrie generals is a great idea. The core story works well. Again, it reminds me of the Princess Bride. And a lot of the characters, now, you know, I had a critique about Utgar, but a lot of the characters are written very well. I like Raylan. I think Raylan is one of my favorites throughout this. It's very good. Shiori, pretty good as well. I like how Shiori, I mean, there's not much of her in the book, but there's enough that just like, okay, very nice character. And she goes through her own personal journey through the book, and you see change there with her, so it's very cool. Yeah, I'd say overall, I really, without trying to give too much away, I really enjoyed it. I laughed, I was in awe, and sometimes, and I cried through some of it as well, because there are parts that do hit you, and you take, you know, you take what you want, you leave the rest, and I think wherever you're at in your walk of life, you can take something from it to help, you know, push you through that, or to help guide you through that next moment in life. So yeah, I would say overall, JJ, I thank you so much for writing this, even though we didn't realize that it was out there for how many
yeah,
years.
that it was a thing.
Yeah, for you, your family, and again, even though I know that it's been now how many years, that pain doesn't go away. I mean, my younger sister died at birth back, 1983, 84. It doesn't go away. So deepest condolences to you, your family, and I applaud you for the fact that you're not letting tragedy stop you from being an inspiration to others. So yeah, hats off to you, sir. Hats off to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you plan on writing any more books or anything else in the future, or is it kind of on standby now?
Yeah, so I love writing. Like I said, I never took any creative writing anything, but I love writing. So I actually am currently writing a second book, not Heroscape related at all. Sort of a zombie apocalypse vibe. I came up with the idea right after I graduated high school. And just the short pitch of it is, imagine a zombie apocalypse where the zombies are invincible and intelligent and have a hive mind and can summon ethereal shadows to fight for them. And that's the world that it's set in. Ryan, you mentioned liking the idea of summoning weapons. That's a theme in that book as well. The people who are able to fight have weapons that they summon.
You had me at zombies, so yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm going to join the zombie side, hearing all their stats.
You had me at hive mind.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, so I started writing that the summer after my senior year, and then went to college and then went to grad school, and so I had written probably about 30,000 words, 10 and a half chapters, and had kind of been on standby for a couple of years. And then last summer I broke that out and started to go back through and make my edits to it, because it had been 3 years since I'd touched it. And I'm almost caught back up to where I had been before, and think I've added probably 10 or 11,000 words to it by now, and that's probably about 2/3 of the way through what I'm planning before I send it out to alpha readers and stuff. To this one, I'm thinking about actually trying to get published instead of just self-publishing it. I'm wanting to do the justice to it that it deserves. But I've got probably 4 or 5 other ideas for stories that I'd like to tell and like to write at some point. I told my first ever, I'm a dungeon master, and I told my first ever play group that I had, I took furious notes on everything that happened every session. I told them I was going to turn it into a book at some point. And every once in a while, one of them will like ping me on Instagram and go, "Hey, how's that book coming?" And I'm like, "I'm in grad school. I haven't started."
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, as a fellow DM, I can understand those pings.
Yeah.
Someone pinged me the other day, like, "Hey, what's the square mass of a giant seal hide?" I was like, "Oh, let me calculate this."
Right. And every time they ask you one of those questions, you're like, "I don't know how I should answer this because I know you're trying to game something, and I don't know what you're doing. You're not giving me enough information, so I don't know what the right answer is."
Very cool.
That's funny.
Well, I think what we should do is wrap up. Give final thoughts, or if you guys got a final question and final thoughts, let's do that. Joe, do you want to start us off with that?
Sure. Yeah, I haven't been talking too much. I don't do books, so as I do want to get it. I do want to read it and find out all the Morrow secrets. I love the Morrow, so I'm excited that it's set into the Swarm story. So I'm looking forward to all of that. I am just at a loss of words of like being able to turn your loss into something so great, and kind of have this wonderful memory of your brother, and all I kept thinking was like, wow, this is how amazing this is. I mean, he's in Valhalla, and it's just that so I mean, it's so I can't wait to meet him in the book. I can't wait to meet him in the book. But yeah, so excited for that. I'm really glad to we have you on the channel, on the pod tonight. But yeah, other than this stuff, I just put out a video where I reviewed the season finale of Ryan's Tales of Valhalla Season 3. I had watched it in VR. I gotta say,
Oh wow.
It's a weird one because the footage did not come out the way I thought it would.
Real important point. Joe Crazy notices boobs for the first time. You know, so.
I do. It's kind of weird. I'm not gonna mention who, but someone's figure has a little bit more extra figure that I've never noticed before. So God. If anything, I think Heroscape needs more figures with figure. I think it's gonna be kind of great.
Wow.
Well, if we go off of that comment from earlier, we're going to get a lot more of them because they're making a lot more female characters.
Yeah.
Exactly. A lot of more possibilities for all sorts of different figures.
For all sorts of discoveries of
figures, yeah.
In VR, I suppose.
Yeah. No, well, because I watched it in VR so I could watch it on the big screen. But when I recorded it, it does look like I'm doing this.
Oh my God.
So it's like you don't really see me like watching this. The experience for me was like a big screen. It was huge.
Right.
What's the toolbox? No. Oh, what's the big monster one?
Bakra? No, Torkulna.
Torkulna, yeah. Seeing his giant head on this was incredible. It was so cool. But like I said, that doesn't come through.
Yeah.
So at some point, I got to figure out what I did wrong there so I can correct it one day. But I'll say the experience I had was amazing. I just don't think you'll get the same experience I did. So I hope it's entertaining. Otherwise,
your reactions are.
I've been working on what, Ryan?
Your reactions are entertaining.
Well, that also hopefully would be. Hopefully that comes through. If that doesn't come through, I have failed terribly. Other than that, I've been working on some YouTube shorts this month, trying to figure out different things for this. And then, of course, by the end of the month, I will have the Heroscape adventure that I put out, that I filmed at ScapeCon East this past year, or I should say last year. Was it last year? Was it this year? I don't remember. No, yes, it was last year. 2020. Anyway, so I'll definitely have that out by the end of April. So you guys can check out what Heroscape Adventure looks like. So I'm stoked to share that with everyone. So that's pretty much what's going on right now. So, yeah. I yield my time.
Yes, he's not crazy. He's totally mind shackled. Check out his channel. Link in the description below for Joe.
Yeah.
And Josiah, go ahead.
So just a great story in both the book and just talking to me, your post on Reddit really impacted me deeply, and I think it was just I don't know if you've been actively involved in the wider community, but it's great to have a face and kind of welcome you to whatever adventure you go on. There's a lot of cool people here, so someone who's going to go on that journey himself, I definitely encourage you just to don't be afraid to reach out and talk to people or find people to connect with, and keep on writing for sure.
Absolutely.
Let us know when the next book drops. I think a lot of people will be interested. And I had dreams of being a writer a long time ago, and I kind of put that aside because of I love doing 10 different things. So I love when people can focus on their goals and their dreams, and I love words are powerful. Words are magic, and so keep on doing what you're doing. I think you got a really strong voice and a really clear direction, and that's from something I read 7 years ago. So I can't even imagine where you're at now, in terms of that. So like I said, I was just shocked. I was like, this is written by whatever age you were in high school. Like I read some of my stuff in high school, and I go. So thumbs up there. But I am the Roguescaper. I'm busy. I've been redoing my layout here. I'm trying to make it look pretty cool for some talking head stuff. I do painting tutorials, escape breakdowns, whatever pops in my head. I have about 3 videos I'm currently working on. It takes a lot of time and effort to take like 4 hours of painting to 8 minutes of a tutorial. So I'm working on that. I haven't abandoned y'all, but I'm still here. And yeah, just check out my stuff. I guess I just recently dropped a cool trailer for NGC stuff that's coming out next month. I was pretty happy with how that turned out. And yeah, I'm always cooking, so I yield my time.
All right, thank you, sir. Jeremy, go ahead.
All right. Well, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, like I just had to tell you that we are probably, at some point maybe we were like split at birth. I don't know. No, it's kidding. I just think it's really cool. Like two people that I actually, had no contact with you whatsoever, obviously, and it's like I didn't even know you were out there doing this, but somehow 6 years after I did, the idea to put Heroscape into the novel was shared between two brains, and I just think that's fantastic, and your work is amazing. Really like your stuff, and that's just super cool to know that Heroscape has that ability to inspire, and not only that, like it serves as a personal legacy to you. So just kind of real quick personal reference to just the idea of how narrative and fiction allows people to tell stories, especially stories of pain and loss, and just having a space to be able to work through those feelings. I kind of break enough from that, but I do a lot of stuff with like Final Fantasy, and they've been doing their recent expansion talks a lot about like ending and things like that, and there was some like really deep stuff, but this is all writing, right? So you're sitting there and you're just like, man, how are they able to tell things like this to us to help us go through those pains that we're experiencing, and it's powerful. But there's a line where they say, where is it? What is it? They said there was a poem where this person had passed on, and this phrase as he had passed on, it said that let this be my final gift to you in death, my love. Right? And they were talking about like, gifts of legacy, gifts of things that, these memories, right? Like we live on with the memories of the people that pass on, right? Like we exist as, symbols and milestones, things that represent that these people were once here, right? We tell their story. So our continued existence tells the story of those that have passed on. And so we have a duty to kind of continue for them to the very end of everything that we do. And it's like, having the ability to tell stories and frame that, give them that legacy, give them that place that they can be enshrined in. It's such an incredible opportunity that comes with storytelling that I'm just really glad you decided to do that, because you get to show that to your friends and family. People who read your story get to see that, people get to connect with that, and they get to know that it's okay to grieve, and then to have a place to be able to remember those beautiful memories. Because obviously I have to quote that line, like what is grief if not love everlasting?
Mm-hmm.
So just beautiful stuff, man. Thank you so much for sharing that and taking that time to do that and get that work out there. And I really do hope that like more people get to read it and get to hear about it and hear your story behind it, because that's a big part about it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So thank you for your work. As always, I am Croto and I do a lot of lore stuff, and I haven't been online a little bit. It's been a pretty rough month, but I do want to announce one special thing that I started. So for those that may not know, this weekend was actually Tabletop Weekend, as established by an organization known as Extra Life, right? And if you're familiar with Extra Life, they do fundraising campaigns, charity campaigns, where they get as many gamers as possible. Usually, it started with video games, from when I learned about it, but then it branched into tabletop games, D&D, things like that. And so the goal essentially is to play games. While you're playing games, you're raising awareness of this campaign, raising money for this campaign, and then that money gets donated to children's hospitals to give kids an opportunity for operations. Like if the parents can't afford certain operations, this organization then comes in and gives them like an opportunity to afford those operations for their children. And they've been doing this for a while now, and I signed up to be a part of their organization for the 5th year in a row. This is going to be year 5 for me, and so I'm raising money for Extra Life using Heroscape. And so this is where the tabletop. This was actually the tabletop weekend they're advertising like they want to get all the tabletop gamers together to help raise money for these kids. And so what I've been doing, actually last Saturday, I got to go to the local game store, play a game of Heroscape with the local state game store owner, and then I started the campaign then. So I was taking pictures with him and kind of just being like, "Hey, this is here," and he loved it. He thought it was such a good game. Like he actually, I feel bad. I probably should have warned him ahead of time. He got to experience Deathwalker 9000 with roll. This is his first game in like years, by the way. And I pulled him in by having him whiff a roll on Deathwalker 9000. I feel kind of bad about it, but it's like, I mean, it's if you want an experience, like that's how you know.
You
gotta break him in.
That is the experience.
Yeah,
that's a free space on a Heroscape experience bingo card.
Yeah, right, absolutely. Yeah. And I got that footage, so that's going to be a really fun part of the video, the edit of that moment where he's kind of just staring at the die roll, and I'm like, "Yep, welcome to Heroscape." That's
the intro.
At some point. Yeah, at some point we're gonna get a video of me doing that thing, but that was designed with the intent to raise money for kids. So later during this week, I'm going to be, of course, posting all that stuff. And if you want to help donate to the campaign, I would appreciate that. I'm going to be donating a little bit of my own money when I get the chance to help support. And they're focusing on tabletop games this month. That's why I wanted to like bring Heroscape up in particular. So I'm going to be playing Heroscape at the store, talking about the campaign, the charity event, and probably looking into offering some incentives. So if you want to help support the kids, get something in return, we'll see. I have to work on stuff, but that's what I've been doing this weekend. I started. I've been wanting, I love the idea of Extra Life. It is one of the coolest concepts out there. Literally playing games to raise money for kids, for children's hospitals, and then it's been such an enduring presence in my life as a gamer and a nerd. So yeah, I'm just happy to announce I'm doing it for year 5. And here's a fun little thing: if I raise $100, they're actually going to get one of their incentives they're giving to players is a glass D20. They have. So I'm like, I kind of want that for Heroscape. So we'll see how it goes. But definitely if that comes in it, like I'll show it on the stream, of course, and be like, hey, look what we earned as a community. And I just like doing some small like charity events every once in a while because it's nice to give back. Because trust me, I know more than anybody. Like I've gotten a lot of opportunities as a creator, and I want to kind of give back. So that's what I'm doing. Extra Heroscape for Extra Life, and it's gonna be doing that for the rest of the month. I think the particular tabletop focused fundraising ends on the 30th of April, but obviously it's going to be all year, and then later on they're going to be doing one for games in specific and stuff like that. So, but yeah, right now we're doing tabletop weekend and tabletop Extra Life. So cool stuff. But yeah, just wanted to get that part out there, and if you want to help support, let me know. Of course, you all got my handles, at DSLM ESSLAIM. I spelled my own name wrong. ESSALIM.
It's all good.
But links in description, yes. And with that, I yield my time.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. JJ, anything you want to say before we sign off?
I just want to say I'm honored that you guys had me on tonight. It's been a joy to be here and to be able to talk about my brother's story again, and to be able to share that with other people. I know there were some people who had some questions about places to buy it. The book is available on Amazon. It's also available on a place called lulu.com. The links are down beneath. But then also in the chat, I posted a direct link to a website that I've made for all of my various hobbying things that I enjoy doing, because I am one of those people like Roguescaper who has way too many hobbies and not enough time to do all of them. So I figured, why not make a website showcasing all of it? So the website is in there as well, so you can kind of follow along as I add stuff into it. And
JJ,
there is a page in there.
Link private message, and I'll add that link later on to the
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's there's even a page on there for that zombie apocalypse book I was talking about, where it kind of details the process and where we're at with it, and so you can check back whenever you need to.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, JJ. Now, and of course, I'm Ryan, aka Tales of Valhalla. Descriptions below. You got Discord, and Patreon. Where we do backstage. There's actually extra stuff that we've talked about already. Pre-show, and then we're going to talk about stuff post-show. So if you want to get on that, it's up as low as $1 a month on Patreon to get involved in the ToV community there. So consider it, please. But no, I think I haven't done this in a while, but I think I need to do some type of inspirational speech near the end. So I'm going to a little bit tonight. So give me
Speech.
give me a minute. This is very inspiring, of course. And for me personally, I reflect back to, like, I was reading the other day a post on J.R. Tolkien, who is, of course, the author of Lord of the Rings, the GOAT for, like, basically medieval fantasy. Not just that, languages. That's what he was a professor in, I believe, in Oxford. He created languages. He studied languages. He loved languages. That's where Lord of the Rings came from. But what many people may not know is he was best friends with another well-established fantasy author, C.S. Lewis, Clive Staples Lewis, who wrote The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. And apparently, I just read this just a little bit ago. I didn't know it, but J.R. Tolkien wasn't really into, like, writing these big long form book stories. He did it and completed it because Clive Staples Lewis was encouraging him, was reading the story along with him, being a friend through that whole process. So I would say, first and foremost, that whenever you're going through this creative process, it's really the support of people, and we might not even realize it at the time how much it's needed. It could be a friend, it could be family, it could be both. It could be those who are with us or those who are passed away. That can be the motivation. But it's something that I'm always thankful for, and I'm sure all of you who are creatives out there are as well. Now, when it comes to Tolkien, one of my favorite characters throughout the whole Lord of the Rings is Theoden. Theoden has such an amazing character, a redemption arc in the series. He starts out, you start him out seeing he's an old, decrepit man. His mind is controlled. He is really a shell of his former self, of his youth. He loses his son. He nearly loses his kingdom. He's lost any sense of self, of who he was. And the redemption he gets near the end because of what he decides to do, of the battles he decides to face. And I love the line at the very end, and I think it's the same in the book as it is in the film, where he says, I go to my fathers, and whose mighty company now I will not be ashamed. And I think on a personal level, this is how all of us, if we're deciding to do good in life, to be a force for good in life, for those of us who have passed on, who could possibly be waiting for us on the other side when it's our time, what actions in your life are you taking to make sure that you feel no shame? I think that can be a personal reflection for us all, to think about that. But with that, again, I thank you, JJ, for the fact of this just coming up. This is what the ToV podcast is all about. It's to bring these type of stories out there. It's to embrace that community. It's to, of course, to be our nerdy selves and talk about a game, but it's also has a human and heart level. So again, I'm glad that you were able to come on with us tonight and share this story with us. And for all you guys out there, thank you, all of you commenting in the chat. I'm sorry I can't catch up on those comments tonight because I'm going to shut down. But thank you all for commenting. Team Ski, Z-Nash, all you out there, thank you. And all those who listen on the audiosphere via Spotify and others, always thinking about you, always thanking you, because that community keeps on growing. So thank you so much. But with that, Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. You have a purpose in your life. Find it, pursue it, and live it. And we'll see you guys next time for more nerdy things, because I'm sure in a few weeks we are going to be doing some things. All right, later now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now.